So guys, I didn't do a great job introducing you guys, because if I want to start introducing the things you're doing, which would take me a lot. So can you briefly introduce yourself to the people a little bit?
Hi everyone, my name is Iman Dawoodian. I'm from Iran Entrepreneurship Association. My job is, I'm a community builder, and my job is to managing a startup weekends in Iran, events like startup weekend and other ones. And it's about 3 years that I'm involved in startup weekend and working closely with Tech Startup Global.
I'm Ahmed Baya from Mauritania. So basically, we organized the first startup-related event, which was Startup Weekend last August 2014. And we're now organizing other events, some of the Techstars event and other events as well in next November. So basically, what we're trying to do is to build the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Mauritania. So hopefully we'll do great things together with Techstars.
My name is Naufal. I'm a founder of Scorify, which is an IT recruitment company. And I'm founder also of Startup Morocco, which is an NGO supporting startup in Morocco.
Hello, I'm Patrick Bosteels. I'm a full-time startup enthusiast for the last 3 years. Actually, I'm from Belgium, but I live and work here in Turkey for the last 3 years. I'm also married with a Turkish woman, so just to make clear why I am here, that's always the reason that it comes back. I'm the founder of StageCo and co-founder of Coder Dojo here in Turkey, and it's all about startups. So that's like my full-time occupation.
Thanks, guys, and welcome on the stage. Just to make it clear for the audience, if you would like to also chime in and ask any questions, or our community leaders, if you'd like to also join the conversation, please feel free to do so. So the first questions might be raising in the audience hand is why you are doing what you are doing. Can you give us like briefly what you guys are doing, what the value you're adding to your community by the things you're doing?
About 3 years ago that the first startup event came to Iran, and we didn't have any startup events before that, mainly. The main thing that we have as a problem was that the lack of, networking, even lack of education for startups, for who wants to, doing their startups. And that time, we found Startup Weekend as a great platform to do that. And to teach everyone how they can run their startups. It's a great way to taste what it really like to run their own startups. And after that, we organized Startup Weekend. A lot of great things happen. So far that we are here, about 70 Startup Weekends we hosted in Iran in more than 30 cities. That was a great outcome, and also the outcome of this one was that we had a survey on this, and we found out about 70% of the participants of Startup Weekend are now still connected after 1 or 2 years to each other, and about more than 20% they're working on their startup that they started in a Startup Weekend. And after this 3 years, that we can see the outcome in many accelerators, we can see the result because of the many startups that are in accelerators in Iran that's just started in 1 or 2 years ago, that most of them had participated in Startup Weekend at least once. And I think you really can see the outcome in Iran with the Startup Weekend. Thanks.
Thank you. So basically, to give you the real reason why I'm doing this, I need to give you a little background about myself. After finishing my studies a few years ago, I was very lucky when I was really young to have a very good mentor who guided me and showed me the right path, basically, to be a successful entrepreneur and investor. So I said, okay, I did this, but now I need to find a way to give back to my community, basically. I was very lucky to have a good mentor. I was very lucky to have someone who can show me things that I need to do or not to do. So I said, okay, let's start with an event, which was Startup Weekend. I'm very interested in general about entrepreneurship. So I said, okay, I will try this. We'll see what will happen. So by the way, that person who was my mentor, that's why I said I was very lucky. It happened to be my dad, actually. So yeah. So anyway, we organized the event. And I said, okay, this is, I think, is a huge first step, but we need to take it further. So I decided with my team to found basically an organization which will organize events, activities, and programs. So we can basically build the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Mauritania. So we have plans in 2016 to launch the first accelerator in Mauritania. So basically, we will have the organization, which is a non-profit with organizing the events and activities related to entrepreneurship, and we will have a linked accelerator working with the events. So basically, we will detect the startups, hopefully, through our events and activities. So to come back to the main question, why I'm doing this and why I did this, to be honest, I think, in my opinion, it's the best way for me to give back to my community. It was wonderful seeing young people, for example, during a startup weekend coming, they didn't know each other before the event. At the end of the event, 2 startups were fully founded at the last day of the event, up to 30,000 euro. I mean, it was great to see this, the smiles on their faces. I mean, you can't describe that. You have to live it, basically. So yeah, I will pass to Naufal, right?
Actually, to answer the question, I will tell you the story of the beginning. The first time I ever heard about Startup Weekend was a call from a friend who told me, "Hi Naufal, we want to organize a Startup Weekend in Morocco." My first answer was, "No way, what's that shit? I will not organize Startup Weekend." The story ended that I organized 25 events after that of Startup Weekends around Morocco. Why we did this? The first event was we discovered that we changed the life of people. The event after, we had a mission that's building the startup ecosystem in Morocco. And Startup Weekend is a really powerful tool to build an ecosystem. Mentors was recruited for Startup Weekend, and they learn how to mentor during Startup Weekends. Government, we raised the interest of government in startups through Startup Weekends. We learned as NGO also about the startup ecosystem through Startup Weekends. We learned that, for example, agribusiness startup exists in Agadir, which is a city in the south. A tourist startup and service startup exists in Marrakesh. IT startup are in Rabat, Casablanca. Hardware startup are in Fes. So we used to learn about our ecosystem through Startup Weekend. So the story is we continue organizing Startup Weekend because it is a good start to build an ecosystem, and because of our lessons, we introduced other competition as Future Agro Challenge, Creative Business Cup, Startup Cup, Startup Open, Get in the Ring, MVP Cup, Clean Tech Open, and this couldn't happen without Startup Weekend at the beginning.
So I'm not going to tell you my story because, as you can see on the color of my hair, this is white. So this means that I have gone through this for a long time now. I was a serial entrepreneur, Belgium, London, Paris. I had founded 13 startups, like 13 companies. I'm not going to call them startups. So I have my experience of failure and success, so that was very nice. When I came here in Turkey, I didn't want to have a company anymore. That's basically the reason why I'm doing this now. I was like, I don't want to be a company anymore, but I do want to help the startups. So I am on the side of the startups. Again, this morning I heard something that I'm always like kind of finding a kind of a revolution within the startup scene. This morning I heard that some accelerator from the States is going to bring $15 million to here. I think that's a joke, and that's why I'm here. I always like to, from the startups, say and defend a little bit, we have to look at what we need. When we do a startup weekend, we see that we fulfill a need. We fulfill a need because there is the unknown about startups, the startup scene. The people come from university, and then they have this idea like, let's go and build a startup. They have no idea, so Startup Weekend is your like first on paper failure that you can have, which is very uncostly because most of the time we even provide food with Startup Weekend. So this is quite amazing. So they have free food, they have knowledge, and all they do is, at the end of the story, is they wrap the paper that they had the startup on, they push it away, and they can start again. So I think it's very good for us that we do these things, so we engage with these people. We give them a little bit of experience, although very limited, of course. For me personally, it's more like defending startups towards investors. I always say we don't need a Marshall Plan in the MENA region. We don't need your money. We need you to listen to us and to go together through the journey, which is more important than just throwing some millions of dollars to us, because we have more of them here in the MENA region, believe me.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to give more time to questions, so if you want to wrap up for a couple of minutes, it's fine, but it's kind of strange. I mean, it's the entrepreneur. I kind of left the room. I had 4 panelists, and I came back like I was the only one. There's 4 more people. It's okay, perfect. Like, that's what we do. I mean, we want to give this stage to everybody who has something to say. And I completely agree with that. Except for that, we need other people's money for increasing the commitment of the Turkish investors. I think there is a missing gap. We haven't created the fear of missing out in emerging economies. The more international accelerator programs start coming to emerging economies, the old guys who made money by trade or retail or construction go like, yeah, like we're losing something. Like this connected to me is getting shipped to US, like they're in an accelerator program, and we got to invest in this. So that helps, and it's funny because I went to, and I think we need to add more mentors as suffering during the process of startup weekends. I was mentoring a startup weekend in Turkey, and I said, I think I don't get this, because you go there for 2 hours, 3 hours a day, you help, you kind of do your 2 cents. I said, I'll go somewhere that nobody knows me, I'll pretend I'm a student, and I'll live through it. I went to East Lansing, kind of very remote, and nobody knew what I was doing. I just joined the team. I pitched an idea, and nobody liked it. It's good. So I suffered on the floor, sleeping on a sleeping mat, and everybody's like, we can get you a 5-star hotel. What's the problem with you? I said, I don't want that. And then we won the thing. Okay, I knew what to do to win, but I knew what to tell them to go and do. I didn't just run everything. The founder did everything every mentor told him to do. Get traction, launch the thing, get traction, launch the thing, get traction, launch the thing, and get money. He had made $1,200 in 3 days by just promising people, and now it's okay. He didn't launch it, of course, it's not easy, but he learned. I learned a lot in mentoring or suffering through the experience than I learned as an entrepreneur or a coach. So thank you for listening. I know there are some dying questions, so people who ask questions will be very, very happy, but can I ask one thing, and can you please move it to front so this becomes more like a dialogue rather than like one-way street? Come closer. Yeah, be a little disturbed. Okay, it's almost lunch. Come closer. We're cozy, they're cozy. No one's gonna bite you. Thank you. So we woke up, energized. Now we can ask more questions. All right. Questions? Please, I get you here to ask questions.
Questions for them, questions for us.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, and I also want to congratulate you for Up Global. I mean, what you built was something amazing. At the end, Up Global, how many startup weekends happening in how many countries? Like all Up Global events? It's like more than 100 actually, yeah, I guess.
This year we'll have about 1,400 events in about 130 countries.
130. I mean,
so
you built something that contributes to startup ecosystem.
It's all because of people like this,
yeah,
like these guys.
Yeah, I know, yeah. They're amazing too. I mean, what they're doing in Turkey, it's really good, especially Patrick's, we know that. And what was your motivation? I mean, you built something that contributes into 130 countries ecosystem. What was your motivation? It was like 7 or 8 years ago, I guess, yeah? And
yeah, so what motivated me to help, I guess, create Startup Weekend, really, and help scale it? It's really showing up in communities, getting to meet, getting to show up and realize that you can actually change people's lives in a pretty lightweight way. It's not rocket science. It really has to do with showing, I think Ahmad talked a lot about hope, right? In the Startup Weekend model, you can see people, like transformational things happen in a matter of 2.5 days. And flying around the world, I thought it was unique to my community at first. Then I thought it was unique to the second one. By the 5th one, I'm like, holy shit. You can actually literally change the trajectory, the path of somebody's life in a 2.5-day experience. And that trajectory, I believe, those are good trajectory changes. So I guess it's a self-perpetuating thing. It's addicting.
Yeah, I have another small question. So you became the Chief Community Officer at Techstars now, and they acquired Up Global. I think you guys are going to be more aggressive now on expanding. He's here too. So, I mean, Up Global was...
We've got currently 18 accelerator programs around the world. And I think within the next 3 years, the ambition is to have more than 80. So obviously, MENA region is a very important region to us too. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes. Whether you liked it or not, I was going to come and ask you a question. So it's good.
Okay. Hello. I have 2 questions actually. One is to Techstars. When you look at the trajectory of the startup environment, the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Israel, I would wager that the Yozma system has some part to play. Now, what my question boils down to is that, has there ever been a discussion of a government entity partnering up with an entity like Techstars, where the success rate is fairly high, basically outsourcing the responsibility of the government in terms of cultivating the entrepreneurial ecosystem in a country?
So the answer is no. We've never had conversations with governments. I think one of the real principles we have is we want to help create healthy, long-term, sustainable ecosystems. And generally, that really needs to be done in the private market.
Right.
I think governments can play, they're a very large stakeholder in this. But one of the real premises is communities need to be entrepreneurial-led. And so when we think about who we want to partner with for like managing and actually running programs, we really want those to be entrepreneurs. And so working with governments, we want them to help complement the efforts of the local entrepreneurs, not be the people on stage kind of leading the actual effort, so to say. So answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
My next question is to you. You said that your main focus was towards food startups. How do you think, what would be the main challenge towards creating the next scalable idea in the realm of food startups? And would there be the possibility of partnering up with a corporate entity to cultivate that portion?
Would you introduce yourself as well? Who are you? What are you doing?
Okay.
Well,
what we do is that we represent North Star Innovation. We are the innovation commercialization of Yıldız Holding, which is Ülker. We own companies like Godiva, United Biscuits. We are basically a confectionery company. And currently we are kickstarting an entity that is going to be keen on investing in projects that could generate value to the company, as well as create, further develop the entrepreneurial ecosystem in our region.
The question is very easy, actually. Look at what happened in the banking environment. So at a certain moment, all these people in the banking environment is very conservative. They don't want to change anything because it works. That's actually how they think. And they make a lot of easy money at the same time. Then, of course, things like Swipe happened. And I was like, fuck, something is happening here. We should not leave it alone. So, of course, it started again in the States and mainly in the UK with Barclays, when they said, okay, let's have like accelerators or investment programs in what we call verticals. So they came up with fintech. So the same thing should probably, I can imagine that in the next couple of years, we will not have like accelerators who do everything. There will be like accelerators and incubator programs that are in verticals. And we talk a lot about that, but it's very hard to combine the business to the startup scene because they speak the different language. So I had a digital agency, for example. So I had a CTO and I had a CMO left and right of me. I was in the middle because I was a digital agency. And actually all I did was translate what he was saying to the other guy because I had no idea what they were talking about. If one is talking about unique visitors, the other one was talking about how are my KPIs on TV. So they had different languages, and the same thing is happening now with, we have businesses, and they're talking about entrepreneurship, and we should evolve with our big companies and stuff like that, but they don't talk the language of the startups. Startups is a gambling thing. So you have to know that if you go into that world, if you go into disruption and innovation, then failure is part of your thing. Now, it was already said next door, failure is really a bad word. I failed too. There is nothing good about it. It's bullshit. It gives you, I mean, you just cry at home. That's all you do when you have a failure. The whole thing is experience. So if you want to build up experience, go as a company to a vertical, be part of the start of it. Don't wait until somebody comes up with this great idea that you just can sign the contract because they're already doing it for 2 years, but be at the first. You will also gain being the first in that business and start with that vertical and find people who really are into it. To give an example from myself, I'm working with Dokuzelul in Izmir. So all the life science, so also food is part of it, all life science is there, 150,000 students. There is not one company coming out of there, not one company. I get crazy about that. So you have all the knowledge, but nothing gets translated to business. So, but if I go to the business people and say, guys, let's help me to get from this knowledge and R&D, get this into businesses and invent something, nobody is home. So it's the business fault. It's never the startup's fault, it's the business fault who is always waiting and waiting. And Barclays, for example, as a bank in London, they were the first ones to embrace fintech. And then suddenly everybody was about fintech. I mean, everybody is talking about fintech as the biggest and the next big portal in the most conservative market you can even imagine. So every industry should look at that. And it should be part of their plan. Not as a social responsibility plan. No, as an actual business point in their business plan. So, and then we will see things moving on. Also in print. I mean, we print today in 3D. I'm from Belgium, so I know Godiva, of course. So we print chocolate in 3D, personalized. I mean, that's nice, but the chocolate is not good, by the way. I eat it, so it's not good. So there's a lot of things we can do there. So, but it has to come from the business, not by looking at us like, who are those weirdos, but like engaging with us, and from there on really build a plan.
I completely agree on that. And I think the biggest problem in emerging economies is the companies in emerging economies don't feel the fire of losing out compared to the US companies. The reason why US companies are buying startups like coupons with 20 million, 30 million, 20 million, 30 million is they can't find the good people and they don't have enough ideas. In Turkey, in other places, everybody thinks like the talent is cheaper in Turkey. And everybody's first goal is to become a corporate worker. And that's why corporates, okay, I can fire 3,000, 30,000 would be applying. And that's why they're a little bit more comfortable in other places. And it hurts. And they think because of the shareholding structures, because they're not so IPO, there are no shareholders that push them for growth, they're a little bit more comfy, especially the larger holdings. And I'm really, really happy to have a big corporate in Turkey, out from Turkey, buying out companies elsewhere and being more included in innovation. But the problem is, when a corporate program fails, usually somebody gets fired, because that's how things work in corporate. It is very important that everybody tells to everybody else in your corporate that even if this fails, you'll be promoted. And that's the only way corporates will really jump, because nobody is willing to innovate, because they say, well, I have my day job. If I do this, if my manager doesn't like it, I'll be fired. If he doesn't like it, somebody else likes it. If I can do it, I fail, I'll be fired.
That's how Google works.
Exactly. So it kills. And if you persuade companies to ask, there's huge potential in every emerging economy. That's super nice. So you should just shut up. No, you asked a question before. If somebody else has a question, I'll give that priority. But I promise he will ask it. But if there's somebody else, no. Okay, go ahead. But question. I'm trying to get you to lunch. That's my priority.
Next stop, lunch.
If you're okay staying here, I'm happy to stay with you. If you are hungry, you want to get to lunch, you can go now.
We'll make it quick. We got less than a minute.
Okay. So I want to compete with you. How many of the people here are community builders? Or people involved in communities?
Community builders.
Okay.
It's the room now.
There is a common sense about the meaning of entrepreneurship. And there are also some debates on translating entrepreneurship as job creating or only value creating and stuff like that. To wrap it up, I'm going to use Brad Feld's definition of an entrepreneur, someone who has founded or co-founded a company that runs a business. My question is clearly, I'm asking Mark these questions, but all of you guys are subject to my question. So any answer is welcome, for me at least as a community builder. My question is, guys, what is exactly your work, your career? Are you, Ahmed, someone, we are all breathing in the atmosphere of entrepreneurship. You're getting my point. Are you some employee hired at Techstars? Are you an entrepreneur while being CCO at Techstars? Or are you introducing a third word, a third title to the world?
So good question. So I think there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. And I think community builders end up being very entrepreneurial. And I think they need to approach building communities like an entrepreneurial problem. In essence, it's very hard to create businesses around community building, which a lot of us wish we could do more often. And I think as the entrepreneurial industry grows, there'll be more opportunities for that type of work. I think IEA in Iran is a great example, and we have several global entities starting to pop up. But really the answer is no. I don't view it as being the entrepreneurial project. I think being an entrepreneur, by definition, is more about identifying problems in the world that you're passionate about and trying to solve them. And if you do that more than once, do that more than twice, then you become a serial entrepreneur. I don't know if that answered all of your question, but.
I'll quickly hand up the mic over here. I will give you my definition why we do this. First of all, we do this, if you look at Freud, it's about life and death. So Freud, the guy, the weird guy. So it's all about life and death. So I think the main reason why we are community builders, we are seeking for attention. That's our basic drive. It's an emotional drive of seeking attention in a positive context. That's a very basic rule. So you do these things because you want to be liked and you want to like other ones. So that is where you start.
I'll tell you why I do it. I guess, simplifying it, I want to create a world that I can go start another company in. I want to create a community that I can go start another company in. So I've helped do that in Seattle, and I live somewhere in Colorado now, and I'm doing that because I know that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start another company one day, and I want to create a community that I'll ultimately find the support and resources that I need. So it is selfish at some level, I guess. No such thing as a selfless deed, right?
Yeah, and there's always this what's in it for me, and it doesn't have to be like, and I get asked this question a lot as well. So why are you mentoring? Why did you spend 5 days of your life killing 100 startups so that 15 of them will be very, very good and impress everybody like today? So I like this stuff. Why? If we don't solve the problems now, big companies is failing to solve problems. They're just creating new ones. Governments are failing to solve problems. They're just creating new ones. The only group, the ecosystem or the thing that can create solutions that will last to solve big problems is, I think, entrepreneurs. And if we don't get more entrepreneurs doing more stuff to solve big problems, and I frankly don't like the need-based entrepreneurs, like this is a good opportunity, like advertising. I don't like that person. It's a good business, but it's fine. But I'm looking for big problem solvers. That's why in our accelerator programs, we have water desalination companies, drones that are trying to solve construction failures. Like we have a startup that will pitch, like Hajj Guider, it kind of stop people from getting killed during the most religious experience of their life. So those are big problems that affect millions of people. That's what I look for, and that's what makes me happy. Because if I have a problem tomorrow, I don't think the solution will come from the existing solutions. We need more solutions. We need more of you. We need more communities. So thank you so much. This is not a very usual panel. It's like hijacked a lot, but I'm super happy that we got more feedback from everybody else. Good job. Thank you. They'll be around, so find them, ask more questions. Thank you for the panels, and if you have one final remarks, I'm happy to give the mic.
Yeah, I was going to answer quickly the question, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
So basically, I think, in my opinion, I mean, myself, I'm an entrepreneur investor, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if I'm doing this for my community, it's not only for my community, as they said, it's kind of selfish, but I'm doing it for example, just for example, my kids, let's say.
Yep.
Because I want to be sure that when they will be trying to launch their startups in a few years' time, they will have a platform to do that in Mauritania.
Perfect.
So basically, it's not only for other people, but you're doing it for the next generations, if you see what I mean.
That's right.
Can I add a last point? I mean, I promise, it's the last one. So I think in the community, people always praise the startups, praise the community builders, but they always forget 3 categories of people who are very, very important. The first one are the mentors. The mentors are the people who give their time. They are usually very busy, CEOs, people who usually don't have time, so they give their time to spend it with like potential entrepreneurs, and it's for free, by the way. So they don't. The second category are the partners or the sponsors, if you want. So without them, for example, we couldn't do any startup weekend. So they help basically in that way, and it's non-profit. They don't ask for anything back. I mean. And the third category are the investors. The investors give their money basically to the startup, and it's a high risk. So people usually don't see that. They think they're just doing it to, of course, they're looking for profit. Everyone is looking for profit, but it's very risky. So I think we should praise these people because they're helping as well in building the communities around the world.
Agree. And that's the reason why every slide, in every opening slide, I have myself and my daughter in the opening pictures. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for her to make a better world. So exactly. Join me in giving a hand of appreciation to all the panelists, Techstars people.